Alright folks, in this video tutorial you're going to be learning how to draw the human eye. Now there's a few things about the eyes that you want to be concerned about. First and foremost, the eyes are probably the most important part of any portrait that you're going to draw. The old adage, the old saying says the eyes are the window to the soul, and for any portrait that you're going to be working on, that's going to be the first place that your viewers are going to go to, is they want to look at the eyes. That's what we do as human beings when we meet somebody. When you look at a picture, it's usually the eyes are the first thing that you go and you look at and that you as the viewer engage with. So if there's any point of a portrait that you really want to be able to nail, it's going to be drawing the eyes themselves. Now, in the pretest that you did, where you went in and you drew the best picture of a human face, as I walked around and looked at the pictures that you guys drew, I saw a lot of things that looked like this. A lot of eyes that are like big second grade style, where they're like really big and round. You got like the pupil in the center, you got the iris in here, and you get stuff coming across like that. Kind of in that second grade, third grade style of drawing the eye holes themselves. And there's nothing wrong with this. Well, there's a lot of things wrong with it if you're going for realism. But understand that if you haven't learned or practiced how to draw something, it's generally the last way that you learned how to do it is the way that you stick with it. So right now we're going to go in and you're going to focus specifically on drawing a realistic eye. Now, the eye is kind of circular. There's elements of it that are circular, the pupils and the retinas. But really, the first thing that you're going to do is you want to come in and you want to start off by getting the most basic shape of the eye in. So the eye, as you're drawing it, is really going to be almost a lemon shape or an almond shape. When I go in and I draw the eyes in my portraits, I'll come in and it's all good to start off a little bit sketchy, a little bit of extra line work, as long as you're using your B pencil or a 2H pencil, so it's easy to erase these lines. Give yourself the ability to be able to make mistakes and the ability to go back in and erase those mistakes. So I've got the lower lid of the eye starting to form in and the upper lid. What I'll do is I'll come in and I'll have the upper lid overlap the lower lid down at the base. This is where you're going to start to map in where your eyelashes are going to be. Over on this side, I'm going to trim this up just a little bit, and I'm going to come in and start drawing the tear ducts, or the inside corner of the eye. Then I'm going to come in and I'm going to start drawing the outer rim of the retina and the pupil. Now, this is really important that you get that as circular as a shape as you can. You don't want to have any eyes that are like looking like snake eyes, or pupils and retinas that go all the way across like that, because then you lose that sense of realism. So real quick, I'll go in and I'll erase these extra lines that I put in. Doesn't have to be perfectly circular, but you want it to be pretty darn close. The other thing that you want to make sure that you're doing is you want the circle of the pupil or the retina to go underneath the eyelid. Sometimes students will go in and they'll draw that circle on the of the eye, of the retina, and of the pupil, but they'll draw the whole thing like this, which means your eye is going to look like it's super dilated. This is how you would go in and you would draw a crazy person. This has a sense of madness to it. Like I said, the eye is the window go to the soul, right? So how you portray the eye is really going to determine how your portraits look. And if you make simple mistakes like drawing really small eyes or really big eyes like this, it's not going to look natural. So starting off with that good basic circle, coming on the inside just to mark in where the edge of my retina is going to go. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw the inside edge of my pupil. And as I'm doing this, I'm going to go in and I'm going to outline some places where I know that I want to put highlights in the eyes. It could be one large highlight, it could be a real funky shape. It doesn't really matter because no matter what, when you're looking at a person and you look into their eyes, you are going to be able to see that there's reflections because our eyes are naturally moist because of the tear ducts and because of the moisture on our eyeballs. So you want to have a real nice good reflection that you can see on the eye, because without that reflection it's going to create a flatness to it. It is going to make the eyes look dull and it's going to make the eyes look lifeless. Then I'm just going to trim this up right here. That line was really bothering me. So always make sure that you've got those little hints of light reflections coming in. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to put on the lip of my eyelid up on the top, and then I'm going to do the very, very top of the eyelid itself, coming into the cavity or the cavern of the nose and the eye socket. So right up in here is where you're going to be mapping in where your eyebrow is going to be. This is going to be the edge of the shadow coming up to the bridge of the nose. So think of this as being lower down, it's going to raise up, and you want to create that sense that this section of the nose is closer to you as the viewer than this section of the eye. I'm also going to come in, I'm just going to erase this cross contour line here. I'm also going to come in and start to map in the shadows on the underside of the eyelid, because this also has a natural curvature to it. So that's really the trick, is creating that illusion that the eyelid and the eye itself is slightly rounded, that there is that curvature of the face. Without it, the eye is going to end up looking very, very flat. Now at this point, I'm going to come in and I'm going to start mapping in my eyelashes that are coming through. One thing that I see a lot of beginning art students do is they'll draw their eyelashes like sun rays, just like this on this little example where you've got those eyelashes coming out and around. But because we're dealing with hair that's coming off of the eyelid, and the way that the eyelashes work is it's meant to catch any debris or dust that might fly into your eye. So it actually comes in and it sticks out a little bit. That's why this line is so important for you to get a good angle on, because what you can do is you can just start coming in and using a real sharp pencil, you're going to make these eyelashes over on this side come in and kind of swoop up, but they're going to get shorter, shorter and smaller the closer over to this edge that you get, because we're dealing with foreshortening. All of the eyelashes in this section of the eye are coming directly out to you as the viewer, so you're just going to come in and put little hatch marks here. The ones that you can really see are going to be off to the side. Over on this edge, down on the lower eye, you can come in and you can start drawing little individual lines, because these are going to be curling down, not sticking out like this one. And same thing, as you get closer to the center, you just want to give those impressions over on this edge. Now this whole time I've been drawing with my B pencil. I haven't started any shading yet. Now I'm going to move up to a 2B pencil. or a 4B pencil, either one. I'm actually going to stick with my 4B. I feel like with the right pressure that I can control this to get all the tones that I want. Now, what I'm going to do now, in order to start to get that three-dimensionality of the eye, it's all about the form, right? So what I've got here is I've started to map in the shapes of my shadows, the shapes of the areas that the shadows are going to be coming in. I'm also going to end up putting a light shadow right underneath the eyelid down on the eyeball itself, because you want it to seem like this portion of the eye is not directly in light. So it's going to make this seem like your eyebrow or your eyelashes actually are a little bit thicker, because it's going to darken up these areas. That's totally fine. Don't sweat it. Now I'm going to come in. I'm going to start working on my gradient values coming into the white of the eye. This is going to be a real quick gradient. I want to keep that white of the eye in, especially in the center. You want your shadows to be a little bit darker at the corners. I'm not going full on as dark as I can. That's why I'm using my 2B or 4B pencil. I'm doing a real quick gradient value, making sure that I'm fading over to that white. Coming down real dark on the bottom edge, down on this point, real dark up on this part up in here. And I'm going to go in and I'm just going to put a little bit of a ridge of this eyebrow coming, or this eyelash or eyelid. I keep on using the wrong words, geez. Down on this top, just to frame that in a little bit. Now I'm going to go in and I'm going to use also very dark. Since we're doing a black and white portrait, I'm going to come in and I'm not going to worry about browns or blues or anything. We're just going to go with darks, full range of values, and grays. If you look into your eyes in any picture that you've got, or if you look deep into the eyes of your neighbor or a friend or anybody that you know, you'll see that there is that dark line that goes around the retina of the eye. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're just going to do a quick gradient value here as well. Because the eyes, for most of us, unless we've got really dark eyes, the eyes are going to be darker on the outside. And by the time you reach the inside of the eye, towards the edge of the pupil, it's going to lighten up just a little bit. What this is going to do is it's going to give us enough value and graphite to be laid down in these sections to use our erasers to come in and get lighter details, and then we'll use a real sharp pencil to get the darker details in. Also notice that as I'm going in and doing my quick gradient value here, that I am not shading inside of the areas that I've already marked out for my highlights. Leaving those areas nice and white. Now, at this point, I've got a nice, good bit of, I'm going to go in a little bit darker, just gradient this out. Remember your circular shading. Remember, it's all about applying your pressure, shading with the side of your pencil, not with the tip of your pencil, and really controlling how your pressure is. And with shading with pencil, it's all about the layers. It's all about going in, not trying to get the exact right tone on the first pass. I'm going in and doing multiple layers down on top so that I can really control how my gradient values are coming through. Now with chalk and charcoal, you were using the kneaded eraser a lot for drawing with pencil to get these fine details that you're going in here. It's the hard soap erasers that are going to be really important for you, because you can cut the hard soap erasers using an X-Acto blade down to very fine corners, and what you're going to do here is you're going to use this eraser once they're trimmed out. I've got a whole bunch of these all already cut on my desk for you. You're going to go in using this, and you're just going to start getting those fine light details, those radiating lights, or those radiating streaks coming off of your pupil down into your retina areas. And this is really using radial balance. You want to go in and you want to spin, just like I'm doing with this. You want to spin your paper so that all of these lines, you don't want them to be straight up and down or straight across. You want all of these lines to really, really, really be radiating out. Once you get those kind of marked in, then you're going to go in with your real sharp 4B or 6B pencil, and then you're going to go in and start adding darker streaks in between, making sure that you're keeping that full range of values to come through. So what that means is you want to have some areas of gray in the eyes. You want to have some areas of almost white to light gray in the eyes. The only place that should really be white are your reflections. And you don't want to overdo it. Don't put in like millions of these lines unless you're doing a really big portrait. But for the purpose of this exercise, you're just going to come in and you're just going to give me some nice light lines coming across. It's real organic. Like they don't have to be totally even and evenly spaced, because eyes are all just like us. Eyes are all individuals. And then you can go in to the pupil area itself, once again using your circular shading, and start going in and darkening that pupil up so that you've got that real nice deep dark black coming through in the eyeball itself. Real quick then, once I have this done, any of my lines that are going right up to the pupil, I'm just going to go ahead and connect those out. I'm going to come in up here on the top, and I'm going to just blend this shadow out into the pupil a little bit more, just to make it look a little more natural. And now I'm ready to go in and start working on the shapes of the shadows that I'm putting in to map in my eyelids. So I'll come in, and this shadow, depending on the direction of your light source, for the purpose of this exercise, just choose a light coming in from this side. That means all of my highlights are going to be over on this end. All of my shadows are going to be over on this end. And I really want to bring in that crease of the eyelid, doing a real quick gradient value coming off on this edge. It's that gradient value that makes everything seem round or curved. I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring out more of this shadow here, and it's going to be deepest. Your deepest dark gray, not quite black, save your black for right here in the middle of the pupil, is going to be over in this section, right at the corner of the eye, with a gradient value that goes out in this direction. We'll talk more about that in the video on the noses. I'll have a little bit of a shadow coming in on this side. Might have little lines coming through. The more lines you have in your shading, especially around the eye, at the corner of the eye and in these creases, the more lines and the darker your lines are, the older you're going to be making the subject of your portrait appear. So the fewer lines that you use, obviously the younger it is going to appear. Bring this down on the bridge of my nose. All up in here is where my eyebrows are going to be. Eyebrows and hair. You don't want to be scribbly. Think of the direction that the hair is growing. It generally grows in this direction across like this. A little bit of a flare-up coming in. You can even go in and put a little bit of graphite down. Use your fine line, or your finely cut eraser to go in and put some highlights in, and then fill that in with lines coming all the way across. And here is a rough generic eye for you folks. Now in the Google Classroom, so what I want you to do is, you should have been drawing along with me while you were pausing and catching up, and then doing some drawing, play a little bit, pause, play a little bit, pause. In the Google Classroom, there is a quick step-by-step tutorial that you can use on how to draw the eyes much in the same way that I just did here. And then there's also another page in the Google Classroom that has a variety of different eyes, pairs of eyes coming through. Your task, once you draw one generic eye on the same page, so draw this relatively small in your sketchbook, on the same page, what I want you to do is choose one of these three pairs. You're going to start up at the top where the line drawing is mapped in. You're going to go in and map out all of the eyelids, and then you will start shading. This is the assignment for the eye section of your portrait.